Wizard Van is a role playing game that is not based on rules or dice rolling. It's a game based on the concept of using music and album covers to tell your story. So if you're ready to rock, let's get into this. Welcome to Solitary RPG. In this video, we're going to go over Wizard Van. This is a really cool game. It's not designed around stats and complicated rules. It's really designed around concepts of listening to your favorite music from a band and letting the music and the album covers tell your story. And I've just been having a lot of fun creating my character for this game. So we're going to go over the rules, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about character creation. I am going to play the game. Unfortunately, I won't be sharing that on YouTube because you have to listen to the music and YouTube frowns upon that. But I will be using a new oracle that I came across. This was put out by Subclass Act, which is a podcast I listen to. And this oracle uses cards, and I thought that would be very fitting since the band I'm using for this is Motorhead, and their most iconic song, Ace of Spades, talks about the dead man's hand, which is a poker hand. And I've always felt that your oracle should match your game in some way, shape, or form. And for this one, that's it. So I will put links to Wizard Van and the oracle in the description below if you are interested in either one of those. First, I just want to give props to the Kmart price tag that's in the upper corner of this zine. I just thought that was really cool, and I like how this zine has this very weathered effect. Just awesome. It's those little details in indie games that make them just really stand out above all other games. So let's dive into this. You're going to open this up. You got your credit page. You're going to have your table of contents, which there's not much. There's only like 20 pages. And then you're going to have a story. I'm keeping the story covered. You want to discover the story on your own, but I am going to read you the paragraph here about what is Wizard Van so that you have a better understanding of what the game is all about. Wizard Van is a rules-light role-playing game inspired by Sword and Backpack, where you take on the role of a rock and roll acolyte who went to your favorite band's concert, stepped into a van airbrushed with an awesome wizard doing awesome things, and when you stepped out again, you were in an amazing world of techno fantasy, dragons, lasers, swords, robots, and psychedelic strangeness, the likes of which you'd only seen on the coolest album covers to ever grace your collection. That kind of summarizes what this game is all about. You are going to be listening to your favorite band and pulling inspiration from their music and their album covers to tell your story in this psychedelic world of techno fantasy. So it's just really cool stuff. And that's what the story is going to unfold, is talking about the Wizard Van itself and how you entered that van. So cool stuff. Now we're going to talk about who you are as the hero. So when you step out into this new world, the only thing that matters is the band that you have chosen, because that is going to generate everything for this game, your character, and everything that you're going to do in your adventure. Talks a little bit about using bands from like the 70s and 60s, mainly because, first of all, that's when psychedelic music, well, 60s is when a lot of psychedelic music was around, but it carried over into the 70s. But album covers were different back then. If you really look at older album covers, art was used more on album covers back then. I think in the 80s, it kind of shifted a little bit. You started seeing more just photos like that. There are a lot of bands, though, that still use art. Modern bands, that the one that pops into my head right off the top is Amon Amarth. I think their album covers are awesome. I actually think their music is really awesome too. I think their music would work out beautifully for this game. A little bit more heavier as far as the music goes, but I do think their lyrics are very visual and their album covers are amazing. For me, and choosing my band, I am going a little bit further than just choosing Motorhead. I'm really choosing the legend of Lemmy himself as a person. Lemmy has an amazing story of involvement in the music industry, starting from being a roadie for Jimi Hendrix to being part of a psychedelic band called Hawkwind, getting kicked out of that band and forming Motorhead, and just being the band for the fans and being a road warrior himself, just always on tour till his death, always putting out music. To be honest with you, I think some of the best music that came out from Motorhead was towards the end of their career. Yes, they had some big hits, but those later albums were some of the best lyrics that Lemmy had ever penned. He has just been around. He has recorded with Metallica. He's written for Ozzy. He's just done so much stuff. And if you really just look at the whole catalog of albums that they have out, and this is just a fraction of my collection. Let me do a flex here and show you my actual CD collection for Motorhead. This is the rest of my collection for Motorhead on CDs, and there are just so many awesome album covers. I still think these are two of the best albums put out by Motorhead, and look at that art, keeping that alive. But you can just kind of thumb through any of the album covers for Motorhead and you'll find Snaggletooth, and that's their mascots, and Bastards, which is just an awesome album. I am just a fan of all of Motorhead's music, so I just love listening to rock and roll, and that's what Motorhead is all about, rock and roll. So anyways, that's the collection. That's my flex for this video. And there is a character sheet in the back. Basically, right up top is your band. Not a whole lot of other information. This isn't a game on stats or anything like that. So pick your band. The next thing you're going to talk about is your axe. What is your axe? So in music, guitar players, bass players consider their instrument their axe. It is just something people have always talked about. Well, that is your weapon in this world. You're going to have your axe with you. You're going to describe your axe. So it can be whatever you can imagine. It can do whatever you want it to do except shoot projectiles. This is not a game about killing people. Go back to the time of psychedelic music and the genres. It's about experiencing life. It's about experiencing the music and looking back at the bands that you love and pulling from those, the art cover, pulling out the inserts. I don't collect vinyl anymore, but the record sleeves with all the art that was put in there, any of the little booklets in the CD, just looking at them, I think is just a very important part. But you do not kill people in this game, and you will not be killed in this game. The worst thing that's going to happen to you is if you start having bad dice rolls, is you're going to break your axe or lose your axe, and that is what you're protecting, and that is the focus. So put some effort behind your axe. If you want to design it like with crazy blades and stuff like that, think of Gene Simmons from Kiss with his battle axe bass guitars, or whatever you want to create. There's some crazy guitars out there on the market that people have created. Use some inspiration, but just know that is your weapon. And on the character sheet, you've got a little place to draw a picture of it if you so desire. But that's an important part. Then the next thing you need to do is you need to decide what kind of a hero you want to be in this world. Do you want to use magic? Or do you want to be more on the metal side? Do you want a weapon, like a warrior type? If you're going to be a magic user, one of the things that you're going to do is you're going to pull your spells from the lyrics of the band, and you cannot reuse the lyrics. So you have to really know the lyrics of the band that you're playing so that you can create your spells. So you may want to pull out the lyrics and kind of read through the lyric, especially if you're using kind of like a rock and roll band or a heavier band, because sometimes we misinterpret lyrics and we may think they're saying one thing, but they're not. So you may want to study a little bit. But listen to the music and really pull from those lyrics, and that's how you're going to cast your magic. If you're going to be a metal person, a warrior, what you're going to do is you're going to pick an album cover and you're going to draw from that album cover your piece of specialized equipment, which is really cool. So like I'm gonna have two pieces of specialized equipment. First, I'm pulling from the image of Snaggletooth, and I'm gonna have this kind of a helmet as a specialized piece of equipment, which is really cool. But I'm also pulling from the legacy of Lemmy, and when I give my character description, I will bring that full circle so you understand kind of what my special weapon is. But the helmet is just more of a visual thing in my psychedelic world. So choose which way you're going to go and then start moving in that direction. So what are you going to do in this wizard van world, this psychedelic world? You're just going to wander and explore. You can decide to live in this world and never leave, or your quest could be to just find a way out. For me, it's going to be a point crawl. I'm just going to go to some different locations and just explore the world and just have a little bit of fun with it. I'm not going to do any kind of campaign or anything like that. Just going to explore and just have a little bit of fun, go to a few different locations while listening to some of my favorite music from Motorhead and just have a good time. But you do roll dice in this game. It wouldn't be a game without some sort of chance of something going wrong. And I really love the language that the author used throughout this game. So anytime you want to do something, you roll a d20. That's the only dice you're going to use. You need to roll a 12 or higher. Congrats, you didn't screw up. That's exactly what the rules are, which is just really neat. But you can lower this target number. So if you can recite lyrics from the band that's appropriate to the situation at hand, all you need to do is roll an 8 or higher and you succeed. If you can recite lyrics and that song is playing while trying to do something awesome, you just need to roll a 4 or higher. If you can announce the action while that lyric is being spoken, that's going to be a tough one, then you don't need to roll anything. That's just awesome. So if you can pull that off, that would be great. But yeah, so while you're taking an action and you got the music playing, if you can pull those lyrics into your action, you can actually lower your DR number, which is really neat. There is a mechanic called cutting heads. This is basically a crit. So if you roll a 20, something epic happens. And the front man is the person that will describe it. We'll talk a little bit more about the front man next. But basically that would be your GM. Since I'm playing solo, I would just describe that epic thing taking place, but it's called cutting heads, which is just cool. The next part of character creation is talking about armor. So an armor save, what they're saying is if you're wearing any merchandise while playing, and that's why you see my denim memorial jacket here. I got a patch on here for Motorhead. I also have a patch on here, the Misfits head, which is in representation of Cliff Burton. These are two iconic bass players that I tremendously miss in life, but this is my jacket for them. But yeah, if you're wearing a t-shirt, a buckle, whatever, while you're playing the game, what that will give you is a reroll of your d20 once per session, which is just really cool. It goes one step further. If you have anything that is signed by a member of the band, a piece of memorabilia, or maybe an autograph book or something like that, and you have it on the table while you're playing, you can use that for an automatic success. So gotta love that. Really pulling in the tangible love we have for our bands while we're playing a game, which is just really cool. But now let's talk about the role of the front man. So the front man is the GM. This game is designed for the GM and one other player, so like a 2-player game. I'm playing solo, so I'm the front man and the player, which is fine. The rules talk about that as well. But this section here really talks about how important it is to really pull from the lyrics and the album covers to really keep this band going alive, giving some suggestions of things that you can do, but keeping people engaged and feeding off of each other. So this is really where you just you got your character created, and you just put on some music, and you just start talking a little bit, and you just start hearing things, and you're looking at the album covers, where you just find a little bit of inspiration for something, and you're just like, oh, flying overhead is just spacecraft that has this pig skull face on it that matches your helmet, and it lands next to you, and somebody comes out. And then you just start unfolding your story and your adventure, and it really just starts talking about all of this information so that you can just get going. So this is what this frontman's role is, but since I'm playing solo, I will be doing that myself, but it does talk a little bit about solo play and also playing with more than one person. So if you're a frontman and you want to have two people in the game, well, now you're going to have two bands to pull from. It just widens that musical choice. Put the music on some sort of shuffle, or if you're old school like me, you have a bunch of CDs laying around, you just start changing out CDs. Maybe the first scene you're listening to one of the Motorhead albums, and maybe the second scene you're listening to something from Floyd or Iron Maiden or Amon Amarth or whatever band you're using. You can do that. You just have more to pull from, which might be helpful with some bands that just don't have a lot of albums in their collection or their library, or some of the newer bands that are just, they just have like 3 or 4 albums out. You may want to consider doing two characters, or just making one character that has two band influences. Maybe it's the opening act and the main act, and they're playing together on tour, which could create an interesting story based on the band you're choosing. A section here talking about the glory of rock. This is a section that really dives into player engagement, and it's really suggestions to the frontman on how to handle situations that come up in the game. Mainly, talking about dice rolling, because you're going to roll dice in this game. It is part of it, but that is not what the heart of this is about. This is really all about the band and the music that you're listening to. But if you do have your characters face an epic encounter or an epic situation, you may not want them to be rolling a bunch of dice. And you may just, like if it's an encounter, they may just roll one dice. Let's say they hit the encounter, then just have the encounter fly away if they're not looking engaged. Now, if it's just the timing is right and the music has got everything going, and this is like an epic battle scene because you're listening to some long drawn out Dream Theater song, and everything's working for you and you're just having a good time, okay, maybe that combat goes on. As long as people are engaged and everyone's having fun, keep it going. But if people are not engaged, people aren't having fun, then you may want to consider just having that scene resolve and move on to the next thing. Keep the story moving forward. Or maybe the song switch, and all of a sudden you get this really slow song and it just brings the mood down. All right, change and keep moving the story forward. But if things are just happening and people are enjoying the game and the dice are being rolled for a reason, that's the only time you should be rolling dice in this game, is when it's something epic. You're trying, I'm not rolling a dice to see if I can unlock a door. The door just opens, and what's behind the door is what's important. And maybe at that point, you have a moment in the music, or you have an album cover you can just slap down, and you come across this on the wall, march or die, and something happens. So that's kind of what you're doing with this game. You're keeping everyone moving forward. But dice rolling should only be when it's necessary. However, if you get in those situations and we are rolling some dice, there's a suggestion here that if the player rolls 3 failures in a row, well, now they're on the verge of being defeated. So now they're losing the battle, or they're not getting out of the situation that they got themselves into, and you'd want to consider them defeated. However, by the power of rock, so they can stand up from the chair, put their fist in the air and cry out to the rock gods by the power of rock for that one last roll of hopefully getting success to conquer the situation or beat the encounter and continue the story forward. But if they fail, and it can happen, basically at that point the rock gods turn their back on you. You're done for. You lost your axe. You broke your axe. At that point, no matter what paraphernalia you have on the table, your jacket, your shirt, your signed autograph photo, personalized just for you, all your abilities go away. All your DR numbers become a 12. That's the only number. You have to roll over a 12 for everything. And you have to go on a quest to get a new axe. And that's basically what you're doing. Then there's a little section here about ending your session. This can be a one and done, like you go wandering through this new world, you find your way out, and you go back to the concert and you're done. Choose another band, start over again, have some more fun with your friends. Or you can continue to wander in the world and have that epic campaign and just keep moving forward. So cool stuff. Here's your character sheet. Obviously it looks like a cassette, so very 80s. The last 2 pages, here's some visual inspiration which you can use. Got the heavy metal film from 81, which is actually really cool, but there's just a lot of visual information that you can pull from. And then here's just a bunch of different bands to expose you to some new stuff. A lot of these bands I'm familiar with, but then again, a lot of these bands I'm not familiar with. But there were some that I was like, well, that's interesting. There was Johnny Cash was in here, and I'm like, I wouldn't have thought about Johnny Cash for this, but Johnny Cash has a lot of great songs out there that visually can do something, especially like Ring of Fire. I could see that being really cool. But yeah, just a lot of stuff you would expect for an old metalhead like me that has always been looking for new music, to find some inspiration in that. That was just kind of an overview of the rules. What we're going to do next is I'm actually going to go through and talk a little bit about my character creation. But this game just brings a little bit of nostalgia of going to my friend's house and we would just sit and listen to music. Like, we wouldn't really talk. We would be reading lyrics, looking at photos, and just enjoying music and things that we have discovered and albums that we've added to our collection. And that's kind of what this is all about, is you're just playing a little bit of a game and just adding to that story of what the lyrics are saying, which is, I think, is just fantastic. So here are my notes that I took for this game. Obviously, I'm using Motorhead. My axe is going to be a 1971 Rickenbacker 4001 bass in black with Rico Sound stereo output. So Rickenbackers are an iconic bass by some of my favorite bass players. I own my own Rickenbacker, but Lemmy played Rickenbacker bass guitars. Geddy Lee used to play Rickenbackers. Chris Squire used to play Rickenbackers. Some of my favorite bass players are known to play Rickenbacker bass guitars. They're very iconic. And the Rico Sound is a stereo output from back in the day when things were different. And so you have two outputs on your bass guitar. One is mono, one is stereo. It's called Rico Sound. Just a cool thing about the Rickenbackers, but that's my axe. And I'm not making it a bladed weapon or anything like that. We will get into what my Rickenbacker does. Then you get into, what are you into? Born to lose, live to win, which is a saying of Lemmy's. So that's kind of my catchphrase. Bass player for a local band, high school dropout, Motorhead tattoo on the right forearm of the Ace of Spades. I got my battle jacket. During the day I work construction, remodeling homes. So you just do like a little, like, this is who you are in real life. But then when you go into your techno fantasy world, maybe you can pull from some of this information to help with your story. I got my Armor of the Rock Gods, which is my jacket. I took the metal path, and I have the Snaggletooth helmet, which is going to be the special piece of equipment or physical equipment that I have. And my name is Bastien the Bastard, after the Bastards album of Motorhead. Bastien the Bastard steps out of the van into the world that can only be described as Hawkwind. You turn to look back at the dude in the van and he's gone. You feel out of sorts in this psychedelic world of colors and sounds. However, it all feels comfortable and familiar. The sound in the wind has a rhythmic tone that you've heard before. A spark of light catches your attention at your feet, and you look down and there's a steel helmet with two horns pointing out towards the front. You know this is the helmet of Snaggletooth, better known as Warpig. You put it on and it fits perfectly. And the blood in your vein races as your heart becomes alive with energy. Next to the helmet is your pride and joy, your 71 all in black Rickenbacker 4001 with Rico sound. Your worn leather strap floats in the air, keeping your axe safe from touching the ground. You pick it up and put it on, holding the body close to yours. Something doesn't feel right. It doesn't crest your chest the way it used to. Something is keeping it from laying flat. You open up your battle jacket and lift your shirt, and there's a 12-inch woofer mounted in your chest. As your mind spins and starts to freak out, you also notice the input jack on your side. As you calm down, you notice the tattoo above the woofer, Murder 1. You are on some kind of an acid trip and have become a heavy metal warrior in this strange new world. You plug in your bass and hit the E string with a mighty blow, and the sound blasts from your chest so hard that you can see the air move and the dirt in front of you shift away. It takes some time, but you kind of get comfortable with this new world as you sit on a large stone. The questions running through your mind: why am I here, and how do I get back to the show? So that is my character creation, and that's kind of what they walked into. So my psychedelic equipment, my piece of equipment, is I basically have Murder 1 in my chest, which is Lemmy's famous Marshall Stacks name, which is just awesome. I got a 12-inch woofer. I don't shoot, but I create sound waves to maybe knock people back or something like that. So that's my kind of my weapon for being a warrior. And yeah, so I just have fun. I'm just using a plain old Rickenbacker bass. I chose black even though Lemmy didn't use a black Rickenbacker. I own a black Rickenbacker, so keeping a little bit of a personal touch there. But now let's get into the land. You know, what is the land? What's going on in the world that I have entered into? So this is a description of the land from the book itself and the notes about the frontman. The world is a magical blast psychedelic landscape of neon forest, incandescent peaks, and strange winged serpents crossing the sky, thrice lit by a triple moon covered in chrome. So that's basically the only information you get about your psychedelic land. So pulling from that, this is what I created. A nearby river flows of liquid metal as the water crashes over the rocks. It sounds like a Zildjian cymbal. The water in the river is so clear that it's reflecting the chrome moons from above. The wildflowers cover the ground with soft red flowers that dot the landscape. The wind blows and the leaves of the trees make a rhythmic sound that's familiar to you. There is a dust coming off the leaves that paint the air with a purple haze. A winged serpent lands off in the distance, and a rider steps off the beast. The serpent is made of metal and flesh. Its yellow eyes are fixed on you. The rider is unarmed and walks slowly towards you, one hand held up flat, palm facing you, as if saying to stop. Your adventure begins. So that is what I came up with. Now, I'm also going to incorporate one other thing into this game, and it's because I do not have any material really to pull from to help me bring this psychedelic world together other than the album covers. And I do like visual things on the table. I will be pulling from two art books that I have for Braum, because Braum is known in the tabletop world, and a lot of his art is just very inspirational and cool. And it's not just fantasy. It's kind of different, steampunky. I don't know. I think I can just, if I run into an encounter or a character, I can just use Braum's art to help bring some visualization for them into my story, and that's what I'm gonna do. And this particular beast rider, I'm gonna call it, is gonna be one of the coils. This is a faction I used to play in a miniatures game called Dark Age. At one point, Braum's art were turned into miniatures, and there was a game around it, and Cool Mini or Not kind of killed it. But yeah, so this is who's coming off of that rider minus the weapon, and they're holding their hand out to say stop. And that's going to lead to our first question of our new oracle. So this is an oracle that was put out by Subclass Act, and it's a podcast I listen to, and I really enjoy it. And this is an oracle using a deck of cards. And I like the idea of this oracle because when we roll dice, we always have that chance for those awesome successes of the yes ands and really giving you positive results. But using a deck of cards changes your odds dramatically, because when you pull your big cards, your successful cards, like I only have 4 kings, and once one's pulled, it's gone. I'll never get, that's one less chance of that card coming up. When I pull the queen, the exceptional yes, or the exceptional result, once it's pulled, I'm done. I don't get another one. And it just keeps going like that. And as you pull your cards, you start changing your odds of what your questions are going to be. And if you start needing to pull more information, like, oh, I need to get a noun and a verb, and you keep pulling cards, you keep lowering your chances. So I like this idea for this game to use a deck of cards because it fits the theme, and I like the idea of my odds changing as I play the game. I just think that's really cool. So what I need to do is give the cards a quick shuffle. And then I want to think about my question. So we're in our world. We've got this crazy serpent, flesh, metal beast in front of us with yellow eyes just staring us down. We've got this person walking towards us that looks intimidating just by their outfit, but they're giving you a sign that maybe they're peaceful. And I haven't decided how far away they are from me yet, but obviously close enough for me to see them. But we want to know, do I get a sense that they're peaceful? And I want to be able to have a response to that question. So if I get a yes response, then I'm going to make Bastien be a little bit more at ease. So they're picking up a sense that the person approaching is peaceful. If I get that no result, then Bastien is going to be on guard. And for this particular oracle, this isn't a complicated oracle. Red is no, negative verb table. A black is yes, positive noun table. You have suits that give you certain pieces of information, such as a spade is an item, a diamond is a power, heart is person, clubs is creature, and then you have your exceptional results with your ace through jacks on success. Up here is just a chart you can use if you're looking to pull words from the suits. So there you go. And our question is does the person appear peaceful? And I got the ace of spades. How appropriate was that? And that wasn't staged. That's cool. So I got a black is a yes, and the ace is an and. So I got yes, yes, and. So Bastien is just completely at peace with this person approaching. Maybe there's an aura in the air. Maybe it's that purple haze dust coming off the trees that just put him at ease. The person's going to walk up and explain to Bastine what's going on and explain to Bastine the world that you are in, the music is in your soul, and to go out and explore. If you are looking to leave, the person, basically the quest giver, it will give you the directions you need to take, and that would come from listening to the songs to leave this area. Otherwise, enjoy. But then the person very sternly advises to Bastine that they are the law, and the law of the land is you cannot harm anything or anyone. This is a peaceful world. Enjoy your stay, and good luck. So that's kind of how my story is going to start. I'm kind of excited to get this going. It's 4th of July weekend, so I'm actually going to play some Motorhead music, listen to all the cool lyrics, thumb through one of my favorite artists' books for inspiration, also looking at these album covers for inspiration, pulling them all apart, looking at the inserts, just looking at everything. It's really just going to be a cool way to just re-emerge myself into one of my favorite bands and just have a good time. So thank you very much for watching, and have a great 4th of July weekend.